Hello, my name is Karen, and I am an occupational therapy student at Kaiser University's MS-OT Bridge program. As part of my virtual fieldwork experience, I am creating informative videos each week on various topics. This week's topic is interdisciplinary teams and working together. This week's video will cover what an interdisciplinary team is, the occupational therapist's role on the team, as well as potential areas for concern when working with other healthcare professionals. An interdisciplinary team is a group of healthcare professionals from different disciplines with different areas of expertise, working together to collaborate towards the patient's goal and providing the best care possible. To function effectively, team members should share responsibilities, communicate frequently, and respect other members' expertise and autonomy. The occupational therapist's role is to advocate for the patient or the client and speak to barriers and concerns regarding the patient's occupational performance and function. During any team updates or team conference, the occupational therapist should speak to how much assistance the patient is currently requiring during functional tasks. This will vary based on setting. For an example, in a hospital or acute rehab facility, the patient will be working on performing ADLs, while in the school system, the client will be working on developmental skills as well as performance in the classroom. As the occupational therapist, I can make recommendations to the client on how to improve safety and performance during functional tasks. I can also provide education regarding energy conservation, precautions, adaptive equipment, and techniques to improve independence. It is important that I recognize my unique place on the team as someone who can help focus on occupational engagement and functional performance. Finally, to address potential areas of concern. Currently, I am employed at an inpatient rehabilitation hospital. The members of our interdisciplinary team include the physician, the case manager, nurses, occupational, physical, and speech therapist, respiratory therapist, and the dietitian. As I mentioned earlier, a key to being a successful team is frequent communication. This occurs in our facility throughout the day, both formally and informally. Communication can happen either verbally, face-to-face, or on the telephone, as well as written communication through the computer's instant messaging system. Although communication is frequent, something that is sometimes lacking is an element of respect or understanding of where another professional is coming from. Sometimes it's easy to put your own priorities for the patient first, as that's your main area of concern, but it's important to recognize that every discipline is addressing something that is crucial to the patient's care and that no one member is more important than the other. An example of this would be scheduling therapy times. At our facility, we schedule our times in advance, and out of courtesy for other disciplines, we're not supposed to take each other's time slots. We had an issue a few years ago where speech therapy was taking time slots from occupational and physical therapy in the afternoon without telling them. After scheduling a time to discuss this as a department, we discovered that speech therapy was taking these slots for modified barium swallow, or an MBS, to occur, as there were only certain times of day that this could happen, being that we needed to use the x-ray machine. Obviously, the patient being able to participate in the MBS was important to the speech therapist and an important aspect of care, but it is also important to share respect for each other and not put one agenda over another. Moving forward, it was implemented that speech therapists would explain why a certain time slot was needed to the therapist that they were taking the slot from. For instance, the speech therapist would come to me and let me know that they needed my 1 o'clock time with the patient in order to perform the MBS. As a result, the therapist was more likely to be understanding and less frustrated because that communication and respect was present. Another area of concern that has been a recent development since the pandemic started is performing team conference updates via telephones. Previously, our team conferences were held weekly in a conference room. Now, because of social distancing, this is occurring via the telephone. This can be difficult to facilitate with so many people trying to speak over each other. Since we can't see each other, we don't really know who's trying to talk when. As I mentioned before, our team includes multiple professionals, and with this many people on the phone at once, it can sometimes be difficult. Professionals are getting cut off, interrupted, and overall being frustrated with the lack of cohesiveness. Something we are currently trying to implement is having the case manager run the meeting and directly speak to each person by names when it's time to begin talking. For example, the case manager will say, "Okay, how is the patient currently doing in occupational therapy, Karen?" By addressing me by name, it's my signal to start talking and everyone else's signal that it's not yet their turn. This has somehow helped, but more work still needs to be done as we continue to adjust to this new way of life in the hospital. Overall, the key thing to remember when working with an interdisciplinary team is to keep in mind that everyone is working together for the best of the client. Patience, communication, respect, and adaptability are important in order to continue functioning optimally. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's discussion on interdisciplinary teams and working together.